#lonely CFO saw a poor single mom returning her baby's formula. What he did next changed everything. Have you ever witnessed a moment that completely transformed someone's life? That's exactly what happened when Michael Bennett, a successful but lonely CFO, crossed paths with Emma Rodriguez, a struggling single mother at their local supermarket. What began as a chance encounter would spark a chain of events that would heal two broken hearts and create a family where there was once only solitude. If this kind of story touches your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring real-life stories that remind us of the power of human connection. The fluorescent lights of Savimart buzzed overhead as Michael Bennett stood in line at the customer service counter, absently scrolling through emails on his phone. At 42, Michael had achieved everything society deemed important: executive position at a thriving tech company, luxury penthouse apartment, investment portfolio that would make financial advisors weep with joy. Yet despite his material success, an emptiness had settled in his chest years ago, becoming so familiar he barely noticed it anymore. 3 people ahead of him in line, a young woman with a sleeping infant strapped to her chest caught his attention. She couldn't have been more than 25, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, clothes clean but visibly worn. What struck Michael most was the defeated slump of her shoulders as she placed 3 containers of baby formula on the counter. "I need to return these," she said, her voice barely audible from where Michael stood. The customer service representative frowned. "Do you have a receipt?" "Yes," the woman fumbled in her purse, eventually producing a crumpled slip of paper. "I bought them yesterday." "Is there something wrong with the product?" the representative asked. The young woman hesitated, bouncing slightly as the baby began to stir. "No, they're fine. Her voice caught. "I need the money for rent instead." Michael felt something shift inside him. He'd overheard countless conversations in his life without giving them a second thought, but something about this exchange pierced through his carefully constructed wall of indifference. The representative processed the return while the young woman stood silently, one hand protectively cradling her baby's head. When she received the cash, Michael watched her count it carefully before tucking it into her wallet with trembling hands. As she turned to leave, the baby woke fully, letting out a hungry cry that echoed through the store. The young woman's face crumpled momentarily before she composed herself, whispering soothing words to her child as she headed toward the exit. Michael found himself moving before he'd consciously made a decision. "Excuse me," he called, hurrying after her into the parking lot. She turned, instantly wary, pulling her baby closer to her chest. "Yes?" "I'm sorry," Michael said, suddenly aware of how this might appear. "I was behind you in line. I couldn't help overhearing." Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I don't need charity." "I'm not offering charity," Michael said quickly, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was offering. No one should have to choose between feeding their baby and paying rent." The woman studied him, her exhaustion evident in the dark circles under her eyes. "Look, I appreciate the concern, but we'll be fine. I have some formula left at home. I just needed to stretch the budget this month." "I'm Michael Bennett," he said, extending his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she shifted the baby to accept his handshake. "Emma Rodriguez. And this is Lily." The baby girl, now fully awake, regarded Michael with curious brown eyes. Something about that innocent gaze made his chest tighten. "Please," Michael said. "Let me help. Not as charity, as one human being to another." Emma looked as though she wanted to refuse, but Lily chose that moment to let out another hungry cry. The sound seemed to deflate whatever resistance remained. "I've never done anything like this before," Emma admitted. "But Lily needs to eat, and I'm running out of options." They walked back into the store together, an unlikely pair that drew curious glances from other shoppers. Michael insisted on not only replacing the formula Emma had returned but adding groceries to fill her nearly empty refrigerator. As they shopped, Emma gradually shared pieces of her story. She'd been a nursing student when she became pregnant. The baby's father had disappeared upon hearing the news, and her parents, strict conservatives from a small town in Arizona, had given her an ultimatum: give up the baby or lose their support. Emma had chosen her child, dropping out of school with just one semester left to complete her degree. "I don't regret choosing Lily," she said as they loaded groceries into her ancient Honda Civic. "Not for a second. But some days are harder than others." Michael nodded, thinking of his own empty apartment waiting for him. "I understand loneliness," he said simply. Emma gave him a curious look. "You don't seem like someone who would know much about struggling." "Different kinds of struggle," Michael acknowledged. "But emptiness feels the same no matter how expensive the container." They exchanged phone numbers before parting ways, Michael promising to check in on them. He drove home to his penthouse that evening, the encounter replaying in his mind. For the first time in years, the gnawing emptiness in his chest had receded slightly. The next morning, Michael called Emma. "I had an idea," he said when she answered. "Would you be open to meeting for coffee to discuss it?" They met at a quiet cafe near Emma's apartment. Lily slept peacefully in her stroller while Michael outlined his proposal. "I want to help you finish your nursing degree," he said. "Not as a handout, but as an investment in your future and Lily's." Emma stared at him in disbelief. "Why would you do that for a stranger?" Michael considered the question carefully. "Because yesterday was the first time in years I felt like I was doing something that mattered. My life is successful by most standards, but empty in all the ways that count." "And you think helping me will fill that emptiness?" Emma asked skeptically. "I don't know," Michael admitted. "But I'd like to find out." Over the following weeks, a tentative friendship formed between them. Michael helped Emma enroll in classes to complete her nursing degree, arranged for reliable childcare for Lily, and ensured their basic needs were met. In return, Emma insisted he join them for dinner once a week, refusing to allow their arrangement to feel like charity. Those dinners became the highlight of Michael's existence. Emma's tiny apartment, filled with second-hand furniture and Lily's toys, felt more like home than his sterile penthouse ever had. He watched in amazement as Emma juggled motherhood, studies, and a part-time job with determination and grace. 3 months into their arrangement, Emma called Michael in tears. "What's wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. "Nothing's wrong," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "I got an A on my pathophysiology final. I never thought I'd be back in school, Michael. I never thought I'd have this chance again." The pride in her voice made something bloom in Michael's chest. "I never doubted you for a second." As seasons changed, so did their lives. Emma excelled in her studies while Lily grew from an infant to a toddler who lit up whenever Michael entered the room. For his part, Michael found himself leaving work earlier, delegating more tasks to his capable team, and prioritizing his weekly dinners with Emma and Lily over business meetings. His colleagues noticed the change. "You seem different," his assistant remarked one day. "Happier." Michael realized she was right. The emptiness that had been his constant companion for years had been gradually filled with something he hadn't expected, a sense of purpose, of connection. The night Emma graduated from nursing school, Michael sat in the audience holding Lily on his lap. The toddler clapped enthusiastically when Emma's name was called, shouting "Mama," so loudly that people around them laughed. Michael felt a surge of emotion so powerful it nearly overwhelmed him. At the small celebration dinner afterward, Emma presented Michael with a gift, a framed photo of the three of them at the park, Lily between them, all three laughing at something now forgotten. "You changed our lives," Emma said simply. "I don't know how to thank you." Michael looked at the photo, at the joy evident on all their faces. "You've given me far more than I've given you," he replied. "You and Lily made me part of something that matters." As Emma settled into her new career as a registered nurse, their relationship evolved. The weekly dinners became twice weekly, then nearly every evening. Michael found himself helping with Lily's bedtime routine, reading stories, and singing lullabies he remembered from his own childhood. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, Emma and Michael sat on her small balcony sharing a bottle of wine. "I have a confession," Emma said, looking up at the stars rather than at him. "When we first met, I thought you were helping us to make yourself feel better, some rich guy's charity project." Michael nodded. "That's fair. I wasn't sure of my own motivations at first." "And now?" Emma asked, finally meeting his gaze. "Now I know I was looking for a family," Michael said simply. "I just didn't realize it until I found one." The kiss that followed felt inevitable, a natural progression of the bond that had formed between them. Not a fairy tale romance, but something deeper, a connection built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and genuine care. 6 months later, Michael sold his penthouse and they bought a modest house with a backyard where Lily could play. A year after that, they were married in a small ceremony with Lily as their flower girl. Life wasn't perfect. They argued about money. Emma insisted on contributing equally despite their income disparity, parenting approaches, and the mundane frustrations that all couples face. But the foundation they'd built was strong enough to weather these storms. On Lily's 5th birthday, as they watched her blow out candles surrounded by friends from kindergarten, Emma squeezed Michael's hand. "Do you ever think about that day at Savamart?" she asked quietly. "How different our lives would be if you hadn't followed me into the parking lot." Michael thought about the lonely man he'd been, successful yet empty, and compared him to the person he'd become, a husband, a father figure, someone whose life was rich with purpose and connection. "Every day," he replied. "It was the best decision I ever made." That night, after the party had ended and Lily was asleep surrounded by new toys, Michael found Emma looking at their family photos displayed along the hallway. The first one was still there, the 3 of them at the park, the beginning of their story. "You know," Emma said, leaning back against his chest as his arms encircled her waist, "some people might call what happened to us luck or coincidence." "What would you call it?" Michael asked. Emma turned in his arms, her eyes reflecting the same fullness he felt in his heart. "I'd call it finding home. Sometimes the most profound connections begin in the most unexpected places." Michael and Emma's story reminds us that compassion can transform not just the lives of those we help, but our own lives as well. In a world that often feels disconnected, their journey shows us that family isn't always defined by blood, but by the bonds we choose to create and nurture. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of human connection. Remember, sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything, for someone else, and for yourself.